Have you ever been in a crowd, seen something wrong happening, and just frozen? Wondered why no one was doing anything? Well, it's a chilling question, and it turns out there's a powerful psychological reason for it that we're going to break down today.
And to really get it, our story has to start with a crime. One that didn't just shock a city, it actually forced scientists to confront a really uncomfortable truth about all of us.
So, picture this. We're in Queens, New York. The year is 1964. It's a bustling, crowded city, the kind of place you'd think has a million eyes on every street. But it was about to become the backdrop for a tragedy that people will be talking about for decades. We're talking about a 28-year-old bar manager, Kitty Genovese, known to her friends as Kitty. She was just walking home from work, a short trip she'd done countless times before. But on this one night, she was brutally attacked, literally steps from her own apartment building.
And here's the thing, this wasn't some silent, hidden crime. Her cries for help absolutely pierced the night. Lights flicked on in the apartments nearby, windows slid open, people definitely heard her.
Then came the number that was splashed across every newspaper: 38. The story went that 38 different people saw or heard the attack and did absolutely nothing. Now, it's important to say that later on, investigations showed this number was a big exaggeration. But it didn't matter. The idea of 38 silent witnesses, that story lit a fire under social psychology. It created a legend that just demanded an explanation.
Which brings us to the one haunting question that hung over everything. With so many people around, so many potential helpers, why did Kitty Genovese die alone? Well, the answer is somehow both simpler and way more disturbing than you'd probably guess.
You see, the Kitty Genovese case gave birth to a whole new area of study, and it led researchers to identify this incredibly powerful phenomenon, the bystander effect.
So what is it exactly? Well, the theory is totally counterintuitive. It basically says that the more people who witness an emergency, the less likely any single one of them is to actually do something. It's a true paradox of how we behave in groups.
Just let that sink in for a second. We always think there's safety in numbers, right? But what the science shows is that psychologically, the exact opposite might be true in an emergency. So the real question is, why does this happen?
Well, the main engine driving the bystander effect has a name. It's called diffusion of responsibility. And honestly, it's a mental loophole that pretty much all of us can fall into.
This is really the heart of it all. See, if you're the only person there to help, all of that responsibility, 100% of it, is on your shoulders. You have to act. But what if you're in a crowd of, say, 10 people? All of a sudden, you only feel about 10% responsible. And if there are 100 people, your personal sense of duty just plummets.
And this quote? This is the internal monologue perfectly summed up. It's that little voice in your head that goes, oh, someone else will handle it. Someone closer, someone more qualified, someone's probably already calling for help. Everyone is waiting for everyone else to act, and the result is just this tragic collective paralysis.
Okay, so this is a really fascinating theory, but is it actually real? Can you prove it? Well, a couple of brilliant researchers decided to take this idea from the headlines and put it to the test in the lab. Meet John Darley and Bib Latane. They were totally haunted by the Genovese story, so they designed these really clever experiments to see if they could actually replicate this in action in a controlled setting.
So one of their most famous studies is the smoke-filled room experiment. The setup was so simple. A person comes into a room to fill out a survey. A few minutes in, smoke starts pouring into the room from a vent in the wall. It's obviously an emergency. The only question is, what does the person do?
And the results, oh man, they were just staggering. On the left, you can see what happened when participants were alone in the room. About 75% of them got up and reported the smoke, and they did it fast. But now, look at the bar on the right. This is what happened when they were in the room with two other people who were secretly actors told to just ignore the smoke. The number of people who reported the emergency dropped to just 10%. Most of them just sat there, glancing at the others as the room literally filled with smoke.
So, I know, this paints a pretty bleak picture, doesn't it? It kind of makes it feel like we're all hardwired to do nothing. But here's the really good news. We're not. Understanding this problem is the first step to fixing it. And the key is way simpler than you'd think. This is the wild part. Researchers have found that the single most effective weapon against the bystander effect is, well, it's just learning about it, like what you're doing right now. Just being aware that this psychological trap exists makes you so much more likely to recognize it and break free from it when it really matters.
So what do you actually do? If you find yourself in one of these situations, first, Just acknowledge that feeling, that little voice telling you someone else will handle it. Recognize it for what it is. Then, consciously decide that you are going to be the one to act. But the most critical step is this: be specific. Don't just shout, "Someone call 911." Point directly at one person. You in the blue shirt, call 911. By doing that, you're not just taking responsibility, you're assigning it. You've just broken the spell for them too.
It's a really powerful piece of knowledge, right? It shows us a real vulnerability in how we're wired to act in groups, but it also hands us the tool to fix it. The paralysis of the crowd is a very real thing, but it doesn't have to control you. Because now you know. And when everyone else is looking around, waiting for a hero, the first person to act can be you.